First and foremost, we give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kadash, and double honors unto the elders and apostles of GMS who do rule well, and Shalom and salutations into the hopeful elect. Now, before I make this video, I just want to note I had a video, I made this video, and it's like my videos, just keep disappearing. I don't know what the hell's going on with these cameras or, this damn, iPad or, the YouTube or what, man. But there's definitely some things going on with our videos, man. Because I made this video earlier and I couldn't upload it. So, I'm doing it again here. Now, what I really wanted to get into, you know, was, right about now, just being a good brother, man. It's not just for brotherhood, it's just, for you sincere sisters out there too, man. You know, how to deal in order, you know, because there's a lot of, the Lord is doing, he's cleaning house, man. He's polishing, he's cleaning house. There's a lot of sifting going on. You finding out who's true and who's not true. There's cars that's being moved around, man. Because there's been a lot of snakish, nasty behavior going on in Israel, man. Obviously, and the Lord is exposing a lot of things, and I'm not here to say that I'm more holier than thou than anybody or nothing, but it's just the truth of the matter, man. I want to make this video, you know, kind of similar to what I made earlier, going into that, you know, pretty much, hitting on the points of conduct amongst each other is just as important as conduct in the world, man. Because how we deal in order, decency and order. Obviously it's a ranking, it's an order to it. You got your elders and apostles on down. You got the brotherhood. You got the affiliates, right? And I understand, me personally, in the world, understanding what's out there and what's going on, things you got to deal with. I understand, because I'm not gonna front. I'm an angry individual, man. I'm very angry. But at the same time, it says be angry and sin not. I don't just use my anger to just go out in the world and just punch people and bump into people and try to hurt people at will. I hold open doors for people, even if they don't like it. I greet people even if they don't greet me back. You take a lot of shit from people, but at the same time, that's just the cup. But at the end of the day, when you come amongst this brotherhood, man, a lot of that shit that goes on in the world, don't bring that shit in here, man. Deal with each other in decency and order. And if you see a fault in somebody, bring it to them. Building up anger, as far as you women, as far as the brotherhood, start with the brothers first, building up anger around brothers and I'm going to get into all of that and concealing anger. That's not going to go well into your end, and murmuring and revealing secrets and, all the snakish shit that you see going on in Israel. Leave that on the outside to motherfuckers, because the Lord is going to judge you for that, man. Leave that to people that want to be a part of the world, let them bring that around their congregations, man, because we've come into this to escape from that world. The Lord brought us in this to escape from all of that shit. You see, and that's why, in order, yeah, you have your fun. Some things, some things elders, apostles, and the brothers say be funny. You know, it's that's the beauty in it. You laugh together, just like we're gonna be laughing in the kingdom. But at the end of the day, I just want to hit on different points, man, as far as conduct, and dealing with women and brothers. If when you choosing a woman, don't be choosing women based off of a look, man. Because that's going to be, I'm telling you, that is going to be the number one downfall for a lot of Jakes during Jacob's trouble, man. I'm telling you. Watch. There's a lot of black widows out here, bro. I'm telling you, bro. You don't have to tell you. I'm telling you, brother, you don't have to take my advice. You don't even have to consider it. But if one thing you should consider is the time that you in, and ain't nobody playing fair. I'm going to go here, man. I'm going to start at, Sirach 19. Sirach 19 and 8. And this is how you deal with mother man's household. Yeah, and see, one of the things I can actually, appreciate about Great Millstone, right? And the other brothers I listen to is that, there's that transparency of, man, we really realize, man, we need each other. We need Yahweh Shai. But at the end of the day, Yahweh Shai, what did he say? Love one another as I have loved you. You need this rebuke. You need this counsel. You need this therapeutic letters. You know, because at the end of the day, we come into a time where you're not gonna. Some of us ain't gonna have brothers around. Some of us gonna be dolly out here. Some of you brothers gonna be dolly, and it's gonna ramp up, man. But guess what? The Lord is still gonna take care of you. You got to know that, and but that got to be really at the forefront of your faith. Like, nah, whatever happens, the Lord, whatever comes in my way, the Lord is gonna, take all the whatever stone that the devil tries to put in my way. The Lord's gonna give you the ability and the power to jump over it, to go through it, or to just crush it. It's Sirach 19:8, man. Dealing with brothers, and this applies to sisters too. Because that murmuring shit, that's one of the things I hate too. That there's a fault, there's a problem. And it don't always have to be, or rah rah and all the goddamn time. You come up with that rah rah shit, you loud, and it can also you can deal, and explain what a fault without that. And you learn how to do that amongst men, you know, and then you're supposed to deal with decency and order, you're supposed to deal with conduct and integrity. Because integrity got to be at the forefront. It can't be no favoritism. Can't be no just because I done put in so many years, all that other shit. It's certain things. If a brother brings something to you, you feel like you're wrong. It don't even have to be in front of people. You can just go to him and talk about it. That's why the Lord, He gave us His word to, this is conduct. This word is conduct, it's life, it's everything. It's this is your saving grace. But this is for you sincere brothers and you sincere sisters. I'm sorry with the brothers, but this goes to you sisters too. Sirach 19:8. It says, whether it be friend or foe, talk not of other men's lives. It says, if thou canst without offense reveal them not. It says, and if thou canst not, pretty much, if you cannot without offense, if you can't pretty much bring up a fault, if you can't talk about, somebody, when they're not around without offending, their good name or their character, you feel like they done faulted you or whatever, man. Just don't even bring it out. Don't even say nothing. It says, reveal them not. you know. Verse 9 it says, for he heard and observed thee, and when the time comes, he will hate thee, man. And this is one of them things when integrity comes into play. I don't want to be like the world. We don't want to be like worldly Israelites, man. We want to carry ourselves in a way that's separated from all of that in this truth. Yeah, you deal with your folly, because the Lord gives us folly to deal with, right? But at the end of the day, yeah, to cope with whatever you got going on. But at the end of the day, this right here, this is different. This is the tabernacle. When you in the tabernacle, when you amongst the brotherhood, whether you be in the classes, the classes on YouTube, right? 'Cause that's how it's done now, practically. Or whether it be, you just out and about, and you with the brothers, y'all go to the bar, y'all have a day where y'all go to the movies, or y'all have movie nights, or however y'all do it, man. Y'all go to the gym together, whatever, however y'all handle things as a brotherhood, as a family, right? These things got to be brought up, and this goes for people that's outside of that little circle. You're not supposed to be gossiping about brothers or sisters in period, because you don't know the whole story of everything. And the Lord's gonna kill you for that. I'm just gonna be the first to tell you. I was a little heated when I made the video earlier, so but now, I'm more calmed down. I'm just telling you, the Lord is going to kill you for that. He hates that. Verse 10, it says, and if thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee, man, and be bold. It says, it will not burst thee. Verse 11, I mean. It says, a fool travaileth with a word, as a woman laboreth in child. And pretty much that's saying, a fool, somebody that, just gossiping, and, a fool's going to believe that. Foolish people, foolish men believe that. You got young brothers and sisters in this truth. They'll believe a lot of shit that, people that you would expect that have maturity, right, will say about certain people, man. And that shit ain't fucking right. That's why, and the Lord is, and I can't wait, because the Lord's gonna do a great straightening, man. And you ain't supposed to be doing that amongst Israel, man. That's shit that the heathen do. Those are things that women do. They gossip and they murmur. That's a feminine trait. That's how a lot of women got in power. When you read about how kings was taken out of power, a lot of women was murmuring to knights and the other, men's women wives, and then they would murmur in their ear, and then they would work go to other men, and pretty much that shit would destroy a whole nation. And the Lord speaks about that, you know. So instead of doing that, just go fucking talk to the individual. It's why it's verse 13. You know, just go handle it like a man, handle it like a woman. Do it in decency and order. Because when you coming in, you're learning how to do things in decency and order. You're learning how to be, men. You're learning how to be men of the Lord. You learn how to be women of the Lord. So that you don't have children that are just, if you decide to have children, if you're raising up children to be, of the Lord with respect, they not caught with these different snares out here, because we've been snared, even in philosophies, even with conduct. You've been taught to do certain things in this westernized philosophy that just ain't fucking right at all. It's bullshit in righteousness, man. Verse 13. It says admonish a friend. It says admonish a friend, pretty much, go to him and tell him, man, you be better off doing that. It talks about a faithful friend being better than gold, man, of Ophir. Somebody that's faithful to the ministry, faithful to you, faithful to the friend, a faithful friend to faithful to the friend, faithful to you, a faithful friend. Somebody that you can count on, somebody that's always on time. They doing what they supposed to do. They got your back in the worst times. Then they got your back in best believe, brothers and sisters are catching hell. Everybody has their own personal hell they're going through right now. But that's still no excuse to be, if that is going on, throwing around shit, just pretty much trying to play your cards, with certain people's mentalities and philosophy. Nah, man, we ain't about, no, you ain't supposed to be about that, man. Yeah, you test the spirit, you try the spirit by the spirit, but you know when you're doing some wicked shit, you need to, correct that. It says admonish a friend, and it says, and it may be, this is verse 13, and it may be he have not done it. You see, and at the same time, that's why you got to know the whole truth of the matter. Because see, these things go on, and because that favoritism shit gets shown around. That's why the Lord told King David, he told the kings, even in the law, don't turn to the left or the right for judgment, man. You got to find out the truth of the matter before you judge. And sometimes we make a judgment call based on the spirit. You just got to do that. But it's one of them things that if you don't, if you ain't really even talked to the individual, or like they was going into today, you sisters, right? If you ain't even tried to, there's brothers that's out there for you. If you ain't even tried to talk to the individual, or pretty much shoot your shot, you will never know. But there's brothers out there for you. I guarantee you that. There's brothers out there, man. Good brothers, well upstanding, well groomed, level headed. I'm not even gonna front. I'm just angry, and it's just not time. I'm not the one. I'm gonna wait till Yahweh Shah. I'm not ready for nobody. But there's other brothers out there. There might be other brothers that feel the same. That don't mean that there's not somebody out there for you. But continuing on, it says it may be that he have not done it. And if he have done it, and this is, like I said, this is more so dealing with brothers, man, in a brotherhood. And if he have not done it, if he have done it, that he do it no more. You see. And that's when you admonish somebody, you warn them, you bring it up, you go, you counsel, you go through the counsels and all of that, man. But see, you're not taught to do that in the world. A lot of men, especially men that grew up in a single woman household, and you learn how to be feminine. You don't learn. You learn to just jump to the conclusions, man. That's one of the things I stopped. You don't jump to conclusions on the man until you actually go in and talk to that individual, man. I've had to check myself a lot of times for automatically going to the extreme, and and it's nothing for me to be like, what, I'm sorry, brother. You right. I shouldn't have did that. I've done that several times. I do it, all the time. If you right, but when you wrong, you fucking wrong. And you see this shit in Israel, man. It's the little things that matter, man. Verse 16, it says there is one that slippeth with his speech. It says, but not from his heart. You see. So you're gonna have some times where and I do that a lot. I slip with my speech. I'm not even gonna front. I got a badass mouth when I get angry, when I get pissed off, man. You know, and lately I just it's just been a lot of things I just been teed off about, if I'm being honest. But at the end of the day, we still got to have conduct. We still got to keep our faith, and we still got to keep our integrity. Because guess what? Coming down the pipe, the Lord Yahweh Shah is not gonna. He's not taking none of that into the kingdom. He's looking for order. He said, but not from his heart. Meaning his mind. His mindset is still fixated on the Lord. He's not really going off with his faith, man. He's just, every now and then you're gonna go through things. You're gonna say things. That's even in a relationship. Shit's gonna fucking happen, man. Kiss and make up, watch a movie, eat some popcorn, and get over it, man. It's gonna happen. Look, we in the truth. We in captivity, man. But anyways, it says, and he that is not offended with his tongue. He says, and who is he that have not offended with his tongue? You see, even if you talk to people with, you come with because I was like that when I first came in, all kind and wanting to help everybody and all that other goofy ass shit. But the more you get into this truth, the more you realize, man, this is a wicked ass world, bro. Everything around you find out is fake. You stop dealing with certain things and people, and you just learn. You really in your walk, man. It's like it's the Lord, like the elder says, it's the Lord polishing you up. But anyways, continue. Let's go to verse 20. Let's go to Sirach 20. It says this is dealing with the brothers first, and I'm gonna jump to the woman. That's why that picture that you see on the screen is up there, man. Because those are the type of women you want to stay away from. In the thumbnail. It says there is reproof that is not comely. Again, right? Again, some man holdeth his tongue in his head in his wise. So sometimes, even for myself, I've learned that, just shut the fuck up. When somebody's right, when a brother's right, or even when the elders apostles, sometimes they'll be in a lesson and that shit is hitting straight to the core. And I'm like, but they right though. I'm just saying I can't do nothing, just sit back and just listen, like, yeah, yo. Because I try to keep integrity, man. But verse 2, it says, it is much better to reprove than to be angry secretly. It says, and he that confesses faults shall be preserved from hurt. Because all that anger is going to do is you're going to bottle all that shit up, right? And we're going to get into that. You're going to bottle all that shit up. Eventually it's going to explode, and you're going to react, and you're going to be held accountable for reacting instead of when you could have just went and tried to rectify it right then and there. And if they didn't take heed, guess what? The Lord going to handle it. I give a lot of things like that. I just give up to the Lord, man. A lot of things you really got to give up to the Lord, because there's a lot of hardened, stiff neck. We a stiff neck nation, man. There's a lot of hard. They don't like. Nobody likes to be corrected in the moment, right? Sometimes you get corrected on sight. But I'm the type of brother. I pull you to the side, one on one, and I bring it up. And then you use the scriptures, obviously, right? But at the same time, it's one of the things. It's work that got to be done. But really, we just need Yahweh Shah. We in the flesh, and this is sinful flesh, and we in captivity, man. We under curses, but it can't just be the curse on everything, because the Lord makes a way, even in captivity under the curses. He makes a way, for you not to react a certain way, for you not to do certain things to brothers, man, or sisters, man. Or you sisters getting on, he makes a way for that, for certain things to be rectified right then and there. And for women, really, you're supposed to go to your husband. You really y'all supposed to be able to work that out with each other. However, the Lord has to work that out. And the Lord talks about, how the man you supposed to rule over so you can't just be abusive and shit. But at the end of the day, it's an order to it. And there got to be some straightening going on, bro. Because this it's really a sick world, and we coming into a time where order's gonna be appreciated. But continuing on. Excuse me. This is this is why it says that this is verse 4. Let's get started at verse 3. Sirach 20:3. It says, how good is it when thou art reproved and shew repentance. When somebody corrects you and you're like, you know what, you're right, brother. Dap it out, whatever, salute, however you do it. You know what I'm saying? And then, you actually correct it. You actually make steps to correct it to where it don't happen no more. It says, for so thou shalt escape willful sin. because the Lord loves that. He loves it when you be able to, when you able to counsel, through wise counsel through men, like men, like not effeminate men, yelling and you shouldn't, not like that, man. And those are things I had to learn, you know, because when you come in, you still got certain things, traits about you that need to be weeded out. And certain brothers still got traits that still need to be weeded out, but that's the refining process. That's why you have elders. That's why you have elder brothers. That's why you have brothers in general, man, that help you, grow through your walk. That's why what these epistles are for, man. And these epistles ain't gonna be here all the time. So it's only, you're gonna have to really lock in. This is a time to lock in, man, especially in your faith. Verse 4, it says, as lust of a eunuch it says, as the lust of a eunuch to devour a virgin, meaning, you've been waiting so long for a eunuch. Pretty much they don't have sex, they wait. A lot of priests, they're considered, they couldn't deal with nothing other than virgins. You see what I'm saying? So the beauty of a man, they love it nothing more. And our women are beautiful, right? But the point of this is holding that feeling in. That feeling of lust is what it's getting at. Just like that feeling of anger, how it builds up. You see what I'm saying? And that's why he uses this as an example. He says, so is that continuing on, it says, so is he that execute judgment with violence. You see? So when you execute judgment with violence, when you had, multiple chances where you could have rectified, you could have brought it up, and if things get brought up, man, you can't be a little bitch about certain things, man. We got to get out of that spirit of, I can't be corrected. You too young for this. You can't, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to, obviously there's an order to it. You got great men in here in this truth, man. There's an order to it, but it can't be always, I'm too grown to be corrected. Or I'm too knowledgeable. I'm wiser than you to be corrected. When you're doing too much, man. You know, there is a such a thing as too fucking much. But that's for the Lord. That's why I say I just leave it to the Lord, Yahweh Shah. But continuing on, uh, let's get this real quick, man, because this is Sirach 30:37. Because it's one of them things where it's just one of them things where a lot of it's just your walk. A lot of people just gotta learn the hard way, I guess, or they gotta go through. They gotta go through their walk. They just gotta go through their walk, man. That's what it is. It's a refining process for you to understand what is good and what is evil, what is meat for you, to the brothers and sisters, man. You know, and that's why in the world, man, just be careful how you dealing with people, man. Don't be around everybody. That's why I say, if you're gonna do something, you be better off just going out with brothers and doing it, bro. Like, G shit. Real talk, man. If you're gonna do something, do it with brothers, man. Really, you just want to be in this truth. You want to be growing in this truth. You want to be in this, man, more than anything. But if you're gonna do something, make sure y'all doing it together and y'all out as a function, man. Y'all out in decency and order, man. Because that's gonna be respect. Really, other men, real men, especially businessmen, they respect that. When y'all able to move, when you out with a brotherhood, y'all able to move in order and respect. You can tell that y'all ready to die for each other. That's something respected amongst real men. You know, but let me get this real quick. Dealing with women. I was gonna let me move on because I don't want to make this too long. Because there's good women out there, and it's good women that's out there to your liking, whatever have you. But you can't just be coming, to your women. You can't come loud and claiming all that stuff you left in the world. I mean, there's gonna be things you got to work out with your husband, and he's supposed to. I ain't gonna say he's supposed, but there's things you're gonna work out. That's between how y'all work it out together in y'all's household, man. You know, but you can't, in this world, you've been taught to pretty much look down on the Israelite man, feel like you can get over on him with everything. You say whatever the fuck you want to say. You hurt that man's feelings and shit. You know, That shit got to be fucking weeded out, and that's why a lot of women in our community, it's like, women, you're not gonna be fucking chosen, because you got the mindset of a whore, pretty much, man. Nobody can tell you that. You learn that from the West, and it's sad because your conscience is literally seared with a hot iron, like the scriptures say. You've been seared with a hot iron, and a lot of them can't figure it out. But if you're around this truth, and you able to, understand what it is that what you're going through, what you're dealing with, and what you got to work on, the Lord might put you with a man that can help you get to the next level with that. That's on how that's going to come within time. But until then, still continue to work on yourself and build up your faith. Because there's going to be, there's good men out there. And there's good brothers out there, where they be in GMS, where they be in other camps, or where they be in a affiliate camp or whatever, man. There's somebody out there for you. You know, I'm just me personally. I'm just trying to work on myself and stay focused on the Lord, man. I'm trying to build myself up because been there, done that, tried it, didn't work out. I'm like, man, at this point, you don't have to tell me. I'm a fast learner. You don't have to tell me much. Where I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm good, bro. But verse is Sirach 26:1. It says, blessed is the man that has a virtuous wife. For the number of his days shall be doubled. A virtuous wife. What is a virtuous wife? One that's going to help build up the household, not tear it down. How are you going to build up the household? Okay, this man, he has a particular way. You study what he like. You study what he like, right? You learn what he like. And I'm not saying you can't just laugh. Y'all going to have laughter. Y'all going to be funny. You know what I'm saying? Y'all going to have times where those things happen. But then there's going to be times where orders are required. Where you can't just be out screaming and hollering and being an embarrassment and shit, man. That's not a good look to that man. You embarrassing that man when you do that, you know. And if you don't really see it as like that, you selfish, man. You really for the streets, you know. No man wants to deal with that, man. And at the end of the day, order gotta be established, man. You know, I'm not saying you just gonna be calling a woman bitches and all that other shit. If she mess up, nah, it ain't nothing like that. But it's one of the things where, when you come over and here, you're dealing with men, because order got to be established in our nation. You got to understand, we are proclaiming our nation back, the tabernacle of David, the Son of God, right? Yahweh Shah is establishing the tabernacle of David, man. You think all of this, you think this shit is, this little Jody and Yvette shit is going into the kingdom? Nah, man. Continuing on, though. In verse 3, it says, a good wife is a good portion. It says, which shall be given in the portion of them that fear the Lord. So you sisters out there that you feel like you falling out, or nah, man. You just continue to work on yourself, listen and build, and the Lord will lead you to man of the Lord that's for you. But also use discernment, because a lot of our people wasn't raised in the household with fathers, especially the women. So you have a certain mindset naturally, where you don't see things a certain way that brothers see, that men see. We don't think alike, and that got to be weeded out. And that's what this truth is true. That's where this truth is beautiful for you, because it weeds out a lot of those things that the serpent told you, that the devil told you, that you can just get away with, that you are, and all that masculine attitude and all that other shit, man. That's not good for the household. You want a balanced household. See, the thing about, I was listening to him today, dealing with the crows. I love the birds, by the way. I got an emblem of the birds. That's my spirit animal. you know. But one thing about the crows is they can actually communicate with the other beasts of the field, and they have a very found memory. It's like they will tell their generation about certain things that you do, good or bad, to their young, and then they will tell their generation. They will remember you forever, pretty much, man. And they can actually communicate with the beasts of the field to warn them about you. So crows are very intelligent, and that's where you get, just off topic a little bit. They get that Norse mythology, with Odinson, with wanting to know everything. Odin's obsession was wanting to know everything. See, the Most High already knows everything. He already knows what you're gonna go through. He already set it up. He knew what you was gonna do before you did it. That's why it's just do good, man. Just do it. It behoove you just to do good now, while there's still time, while the goodness good, like Too Short would say. It'd just be good for you to do that, right? because the Lord already knows everything. I believe His obsession is balance. You see, and see, at the end of the day, that's how the household got to be established and balanced and decent and order. You know, it's going to, like I said, there's times it's going. You know, when we get to the kingdom, definitely you're gonna have palaces. This wife gonna have a palace. Wife gonna have a palace. Wife gonna have a palace. Right? I'm gonna have my separate palace with the head wives, pretty much, and I'm gonna be gone. You know, men are gonna be gone for the most part. You're gonna have your head servants down to your least servants, which are gonna be the Edomites. You know, breaking up the gravel with their hands and shit. You know, these are things that's going to come, but now it's the time to rehearse the righteous acts before we get to that point, which is something comely and good in the Lord Yahweh Shah's eyes, and dealing in decency and order and dealing true. You know, that's a dying art. Integrity is a dying art, man. You know, so, and that's why I say this, man. Talking down to your man, because those are things that you learn in this kingdom. I don't need a man mentality and you're just a disrespect man. Sometimes just best not to fucking say shit at all. Even for certain men, it's just best to just be quiet. We just read that in Sirach, that what is that? Sirach 20. Sometimes it's just best to just shut the fuck up, man. I say that for myself. Everything I'm saying, it applies to me too. For real. Sometimes it's just best to just shut the fuck up, and I'm learning. Believe me. But Sirach 26:6, but it says, but a grief of the heart and a sorrowful woman that is jealous over another woman. Because you see that, really women, you see that amongst women, good, bad bitches, they really get jealous over good women, and they gossip around each other, and you good women, you listen to them, you get around them, you not even understand. They really want to be, they want the man that you got. It's a game to them, but to you, you just really wanted a good husband to take care of you. And then when you find that out, it's one of them things. And a man can deal with whoever he wants. But see, you don't need to be around listening to a lot of fucking people. That's for men, young men, and including men like myself. You don't really need to be around a lot of shit these days, man. Especially women, because that shit's tainting your mind. It's gonna taint your mindset. You know, But anyways, it says, jealous of another woman and the scourge of the tongue, which communicated with all, man. And see, the tongue, man, hey, that motherfucker will break, that shit will break hearts. Sticks and stones will hurt your bone, but words, and that's a fucking lie. You can cause a lot of pain with words, man. You know, you can cause a lot of grief with words, and I mean that for myself too. That's why I've had to, break down and pretty much, apologize to the Lord for things that I might have said that I shouldn't have said. You see, but that's where integrity got to come into play. Verse 9, it said, the whoredom of a woman may be known in her looks and her eyelids. I'm not saying, you can't, take care of yourself, because take care of yourself, man. If you got a man to take care of yourself, like me, I take care of myself. I mean, I don't like to dress all flashy and all that shit, but I definitely take care of myself, man. I eat clean. I stay out the way. I do workout. You know, I don't go bother. I don't go out trying to bump into people and bother people. I don't do that shit, man. So you're supposed to be a representation of your man. That's why I said a wicked woman is given to a wicked man. That's why a lot of wicked bitches end up with niggas and they both end up dying together or having little gremlin babies that the Lord is going to destroy. Real talk, man. Verse 10, it says, if thy daughter be shameless, it says, keep her in straightly. It says, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. You see? Verse 11 says, watch over with an impudent eye and marvel not if she trespass against thee, man. Meaning, expect that if you're not watching, and that's why, women, a good woman is going to be led by a good man. Obviously, we learn how to get back in order. We learn how to, appreciate order and get in order with our Lord Yahweh. Because really, when we get to the kingdom, we all going to be kings and priests. We're going to be princes under Yahweh Shah, man. We're going to have authority. We're going to be making the rules. We're going to be we're dictating what goes and what goes not in our kingdom, man. What is and what ain't. What you can eat and what you can't eat. What's lawful and what's not lawful. What's punishable and by crime, by death, and what's not. We're going to dictate those laws under Yahweh Shah. You see? And this is the time to rehearse those righteous acts. So if you got, while you got time, man, you don't want, like the women in the picture, you don't want to have that fucking mentality at all. that shit gotta fucking go. And men in the truth that, with that nigga mentality, that shit gotta fucking go too, man. That shit you ain't gonna make it with that fucking mentality, man. I'm just here to tell you, you're gonna die here in Babylon if you moving like that. You know? I mean, it's clear as day, man. Let's get this real quick. Then I'm gonna end it. This is one of the things that you do have brothers and you do have sisters that are coming into the truth, that are learning. They're trying to learn. They're trying to understand. They don't want to be caught out there. They don't want to be, but at the end, they don't want to be caught out there and dealt with, as if, they're going to be destroyed. But see, the thing is, if you've been a whore, not to say that the Lord can't get you, a good man, because at the end of the day, and you're really gonna have to deal with what you have to deal with. Me personally, I wasn't a hoe in the world, so I'm just not picking anything. And I'm pretty sure there's brothers that's just like me, that wasn't just out whoring around and just having sex with just anything and anything that had a fat ass and moved. Yeah, we like what we like, but that don't mean I'm gonna fucking put my rod in you. There's a lot of STDs, a lot of sicknesses out here. A lot of people don't take care of their body. They don't go get checked out. They don't understand how important it is to get checked out and take care of your body. You know, there's a lot of shit that got to be straightened. That's where you see in these videos of health and taking care of your body, using the herbs, the detoxes, all of that, because those are good. Those things are good for your body now to start rehearsing and reenacting now, man, because those are righteous acts. It shows that you cared. It shows effort. You see, the Lord says, my people don't consider. You are at least considering, man. And that's even for brothers in the truth, man. You even considering, you know. Because I be having my days, man. It just be certain days. I just be walking. I'll see something. And I'm like, man, I'm feeling like Tupac is fuck. I be out there, man. I'm not even gonna front like I don't. And so let's get this real quick, and then I'm gonna end it. But that don't mean, that's not an excuse. That's on me too. I got to work on that. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. It is what it is. We all have things we got to work on. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna make any excuses about it. That's some shit that got to be fucking weeded out in my life. This is like there's some shit that got to be weeded out in everybody's lives, man. And that's why I'm making this video. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to, you want to the best of your ability move in righteousness, man. See? So let's get this, man. Because this is where we coming into. This is let's get Proverbs 28. Proverbs 28 and what is that? 18. Yeah. Proverbs 28. I went to Proverbs 18, my dumbass. Proverbs 28 and 18. We're at the NLT. Let's just look at it. It said the blameless will be rescued from harm, but the crooked will be suddenly destroyed. So some things you think the Lord is just overly picky and understanding that we in captivity, understand there's certain things we can't control, understanding there's certain things that's going to happen where he winks at our sins, but he expects us to still have integrity about our walk, man. Just like King David. King David had integrity. And all the other prophets, they kept their integrity with the Lord to the best of their ability, man. Verse 19, it says, a hard worker has plenty of food. It said, but a person who chases fantasies end up in poverty. And that's what a lot of women do. They chase fantasies. You get into the truth and you expect it to be, like you don't expect any work to have to be done on your end. It's going to see that fucking, that fantasy. You see these other relationships where they just skipping on the beach, laughing with each other, feeding each other strawberries and shit. You didn't see the work that it took for them to get to that point. There was probably a lot of hell, a lot of arguments. Arguments going to happen, right? That don't mean you just got to be arguing all the time, man. Nah, you don't be a hell to you, man. You're supposed to be a peace. And to the men, you know what I'm saying? You don't just, cuss them out. You hear your wife out. Hear your woman out, man. Don't just be a fucking asshole. Rule with some that's where I'm looking for. Rule with pretty much have the wherewithal within yourself to understand, what a man's supposed to do, pretty much. You're not just supposed to be going out in the world calling your women bitches, and that's not, especially daughters of Zion, even though there are bitches in our nation. Yeah, they do exist. But if you're dealing with a woman of the Lord in repentance just as we are, y'all gotta work that out, man. How y'all gotta work that out in the household. You know, it takes work. Yes, and a lot of time you don't like the shit, but the ending of it is, y'all on the beach feeding each other strawberries and shit, and laughing and making jokes and shit. But hey, it takes work to get to that point. It ain't easy. But anyways, Proverbs 28 and 20. You see, we coming into a time, man. It ain't finna be. It's gonna get ugly out here. That's a lot of that. What I'm talking about is for the kingdom. It's gonna get ugly out here, bro. The Lord ain't playing. I'm just, keeping it 1,000 with you. There's gonna be a lot of death. Verse 20. It says, a trustworthy person will get a rich reward. You say you're faithful to a man of the Lord who's faithful to Yahweh Shai, who's been faithful, was faithful to his father. You're gonna enter into those same lots automatically. Just like he gonna be Superman. Yahweh Shai is the head Superman. Man gonna be Superman. You're gonna be the Superwoman. You're gonna have super babies. We're gonna have super babies. Yeah. And we're gonna have authority. And Esau's gonna do exactly what we say do, and he ain't gonna have no say so. Continuing on, it says, but a person who wants quick riches will get into trouble. And that's what they come in, scoping out and trying to figure out, hey, at the end of the day, we in captivity, you know. But like I said, there's brothers out there with those things. There's brothers out there that got bank, bro. Straight up, they got land and everything. I know a couple. Got land, got bank and all that shit. It just depends on what you're trying to deal with. But the Lord is going to bless us in the kingdom. At the end of the day, I say this, man. Work on yourself, continue to build yourself and build yourself in integrity, man. Don't this you can lie to everybody else, but somebody that'll lie to themselves, man, that's really hate worthy, man. That's something that's the worst thing you can do is lie to your fucking self when what I'm saying, who you are and what you can be doing. But hey, that's you cheating yourself out of life. And I'm just in that right there. I don't need to go too long with it. I mean, even go this long, for real, for real. But it is what it is. That'd be the spirit. So call Allah Yamla Yahweh, and by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakaha Kodash, and Shalom unto the hopeful elect.